So the toms I try to set up, again, in a very ergonomic way. How can I get the best sound? How are they most comfortable? So personally, I've recently switched to using 3 toms. I owned a 10, 12, and a 16. That's what came with this kit. But recently I found this 14-inch floor tom. I've always wanted a 14-inch because of just the other sound it offers. So I had to paint it red, and because I'm colorblind, the red does not match the rest of the drum set because, yeah, can't see it. So, and I painted the rims black but I did get black right. I'm glad as a colorblind person I can get the color black correct. So, as for the toms, the first one I focus on is the 14-inch because it's right across and it's probably the one I'm going to use the most often. I put it almost as close as I can possibly get it to the bass drum. And the reason why is my snare drum is fairly close to the bass drum as well. I'm trying to get it, again, for that line. I'm a tenor player in the marching band. I like this line. I like my zones. So this gets me the perfect amount of just being able to move, and making sure it's close to the rim of the bass drum also makes sure that it's in front of you. As a drummer, you want pretty much as much stuff in front of you as you can get it. And since most people are right-hand dominant, they tend to put stuff on this side, but anything that's in front of you is going to be easier to access. If you have to turn your body at all, that just adds another layer of motion that you have to do, which is, again, you can do it, and I have to do it, but anything that can be in front of you is typically better. So my 14-inch is there for that reason. The next one I would always go to is my 12. My 12-inch tom, if you have a 5 set up here, that typically is on this side where the 10-inch would go here, but my 12-inch tom is here for the reason of it's in perfect line with my snare drum and its zone. I'm not having to curl at all. I'm not having to bend where my sticks go. If I want to hit my tom, it's just right in front. It's not too high to where I have to go there and move my arm. If my elbow has to go up, that's incorrect. If my elbow goes up, that's going to add another layer of motion that you really don't want to get to. So I try to make it to where it's nice and even. It's tilted just a little bit towards me, not this much. The problem with this much is you get the tip of the stick into the drum head instead of the bead of it. Once you want to get all of that meat onto the drum head. And so this is at the perfect spot for me to do that. So I get it there. I also want to make sure that I'm not hitting the rim too much. That's what some people do when they tend to go just flat. So I make sure I'm getting it there. And then I make sure also I have a good line of sight between the 12-inch and the 14-inch. I want to be able to do either a crossover, I want to run down, whatever I can do, I have to make sure that I have an easy line of sight between these two. And then the 16-inch is just an extension of that line. I have mine just a little bit closer in, only because I want to condense my set as much as possible. But everything is ergonomic to where I'm not having to pull my shoulders back. I'm not having to reach out. Everything is in a comfortable spot for me to hit the drums. Height-wise, my high tom, I typically make it to where these lugs are typically at the perfect height for me to just make sure, as long as the lug can reach over the rim of the snare drum, that's good for me. So, and that gets me the perfect height for it. Floor toms, the average consensus is you should have them at the same height of the snare drum. That's what most people do, and that's totally fine. I personally like mine just a little bit lower than my snare drum. And the reason for that is when I'm recording, what I've found is the things you can always hear the most are the cymbals and the snare drum, but I don't want to hear the cymbals that much. But the things you can always hear the least are the toms, partially because up until recently I haven't been able to mic my toms, and there's not a lot about a tom. It's not a lot of low end like a kick drum where it's designed to be just that impactful force. There are no snare wires on it which give it a different timbre to cut through things. They're not that high pitched because I don't like to just crank up my toms. I also don't like them too loose. So there's not a lot to them that makes them stand out in a mix. So what I'd have to do to compensate for that is I have to hit them a little bit harder. Now when I say hit harder, we'll go over this in a different video, but I don't mean hit with more muscle. Typically that just means hit with more velocity. And again, we'll go over that in a different video. But Since they're just a little bit lower, I can hit them with the same amount of force I would hit my snare drum, and it'll give me just a little bit more than I would get on the snare drum because I'm getting a little bit more distance with my stroke. And that helps me bring out the toms a little bit more. Now again, recently I've been able to mic my toms, but this is the case at a venue too. People can hear the snare drum really easily. If they want anything, they want that lower. People can hear the cymbals way too easily. If you want to do anything at a gig, your snare drum is going to be hit relatively hard, but your cymbals are like... We all don't realize this, I was just crashing out. So, tom-wise, I wanted to make sure I can hit them and get the correct volume out of them, but they're still in an ergonomic place. And then sound-wise, again, I'm getting the beat of the stick right in the playing zone. I need to take off these rings in a second. I can take the beat of the stick and get them right in the playing zone. And I'm not hitting the rim, I'm just going straight at it. That sound has access to me, but I can do everything I would want to do with this line. And again, it is kind of a line. There's a little bit of the bow with the 16, but I can draw a straight line through my playing zones. So that's it. That's how to set up. I know this was a super long video. That's how to set up your drums in the best way that you can, and experiment. Go check out other people's setup and try stuff out. This set is constantly changing because of how I want to adjust things. So don't be afraid to try something new. Recently, again, I tried a higher height on the throne. I've tried scooting it back. This used to be down here, but I like it. I'm starting to really like it up here. There are just different things you can try that'll help you get the best sound possible. And if you feel like you're in a rut with your drumming, like I'm just not getting any better, move your setup around. If I feel like I'm just getting in a rut and I don't know what to do and I'm not getting any better, I'll take out one of these toms and I'll flip these around, whatever I need to do in order to get out of that rut. So I hope this video has been helpful. I know it was a little long. Thank you for sitting through it. Be sure to like and subscribe down below. Subscribe, hit the bell button to see more content that I'm posting in the future. Be sure to hit the like button. Also, leave a comment below. Tell me what you think I should try out next. What different things I can do with my setup. Also, what do you do with your setup? I want to know, what do you do with your setup that you think may be a little bit different from everybody else? Or what do you think you do that is impactful to your playing that you didn't notice? Leave a comment below, tell me that, and I will see you guys in the next video.